the ultimate baddie, the headliner for Baddie Thursday, Matt George, waving his Kings flag, still joining us here. Of course,
waving in a very depressing manner.
He is. Well, now he's waving it aggressively. But he's anchor over at ABC 10, sports reporter over at ABC 10, and of course the host of the Locked On Kings podcast. Matthew, how you feeling, man?
I mean, my mental psyche is getting beat up by the 16-year-old Warrior fans on social media that are jumping down my throat every chance they get for Kevon Looney takes. But other than that, truth be told, I'm feeling better today than I was last night. Like, this is a position that Sacramento, of course, hasn't been in the playoffs, but they've overcome and faced adversity and won big games when they absolutely had to, all regular season long. And in reality, if you simplify things, no, it's not going to be easy. Yes, the Warriors are absolutely in the driver's seat, but you win one game, you get one win, and then it's right back here to Sacramento for a complete toss-up of a game. Where I don't know if the Warriors can win twice in Sacramento. I don't know if the Kings can knock off the defending champs in a Game 7. I just hope we get the opportunity to see it. The Kings, they can win one game. So I'm feeling better today than I was last night. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's that's the same one thing I'm kind of feeling, Matt, is last night, like I said, felt like a gut punch. Felt like Tank hit us in the liver. All right. But I don't think Matt has any idea what that means. But today I'm like, well, it's one game, man. Find a way to win one game. None of the, if you're Sabonis, if you're Kevin Herter, if you're Harrison Barnes, any of these guys, none of your numbers before we got to this point matters. Figure out a way to get Game 6. You do that, give yourself an opportunity in Game 7, man, back in Sacramento. I think they can do it.
And if I'm the Sacramento Kings, simplify it. Like Mike Brown has talked about, Mike Brown's a big fan of the UFC. So he's talked about in this series before, like when you have to go take the belt off the champion, you can't just get it from them or play defense for a bunch of rounds and then win by decision. You have to go take the belt. So Sacramento, you want Game 7, you want your season to continue. Go into Golden State and don't rely on referees. Don't rely on hoping the Golden State Warriors miss shots or Draymond Green does something stupid to get himself tossed out of the game. Don't rely on anything else. Hit shots yourself, play defense, win the box score battles in the trenches. Don't turn the ball over or limit points off of turnovers. Rebound the basketball. Go out and get the game. Go out and win. Like you literally have nothing to lose at this point. All expectations are that the Warriors are going to close things down and shut things down. The Warriors absolutely don't want a Game 7 because they don't have just their sights set on whoever they're going to be playing, Lakers or Grizzlies in the second round. They have their sights set on going for number 5. Like they have their sights set on a deep run. So they're trying to limit a amount of this series has already gone too long for them, and they know it. So they're looking to shut things down, and they're going into Golden State expecting to shut things down. Sacramento, go in there and play hard. Like play that you have nothing to lose and play free. Don't play with any kind of fear. Attack. If you lose, like Mike Brown has said consistently throughout the series, if you lose by missing open shots and doing what you're supposed to be doing, you can live with that. And then you regroup this offseason and try and figure it out next year when there are some significant expectations. But the one thing I don't want to see from the Sacramento Kings in Game 6 is any fear. Go out there and play hard. Go try and get it. And if you get beat, you get beat by the defending champions. Hell of a season. Let's regroup.
Do you think they played with fear last night?
I think fear is an element of why this team has suddenly gone from shooting being an absolute strength of theirs to they can't figure out how to put the ball in the basket from beyond the three-point arc. And there's so many different guys that are struggling and hitting open shots. And like I chuckled pregame because Mike Brown was talking about how his analytics department has pointed out to him that the Kings are generating more wide open 3 looks than anybody else in the playoffs so far. Yeah, it's awesome. You're not making them though. It doesn't matter. Like, and a 3-point shot is a 3-point shot. I don't care about if it's in the flow of the offense, if it's normal, if it's the normal 3-point look that you normally get. Like, if a wing 3 off a dribble handoff and a corner 3 off of a wide open kick out spray are that much different, then maybe you're not as good of a 3-point shooting team as we thought you were. And Mike Brown has also talked about, he's not been using it as an excuse. He's provided an explanation. He said, look, a lot of our 3-point shooting is the way it is because we're exerting so much energy on the defensive end. I'm like, okay, that's great. But at what point does your strength no longer become your strength when you actually have to buckle down on the defensive end, and it drastically affects your shooting to where you're dropping by like 6, 7, 8 percentage points At what point are you once again not as good of a shooting team as you thought you were? I've been disappointed by the Sacramento Kings' inability to exploit their strengths really at any point during this series. And that's why they find themselves in this position. But I could flip that on its head at the same time, too, and say, look, the Kings have not played their best basketball at any point during this series. They were up 2-0. They're still very much in it. And even in a game like last night where the Warriors got contributions from multiple guys, the Kings still had a chance to win in the fourth quarter when De'Aaron Fox was a fraction of himself because of his finger. Malik Monk was the only guy really doing anything, and the rest of the Kings starting lineup has been absent, MIA, just like they've been for the majority of the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you said. I'm stuck on the fact of, Coach Brown and even you talking about they're playing harder on the defensive end and it's affecting their shot, and maybe they're not the shooters they thought they were. I don't know. Do you think they've been getting good looks from three? Or do you think, the Warriors have had something to do with their missed shots?
Well, absolutely, the Warriors have had something to do with it. But I think just chalking it up to, hey, the Warriors have made really, really good adjustments, I think is underselling what the Sacramento Kings are doing. Just like, and I said the same thing about Keegan Murray last night. Yeah, the Golden State Warriors made adjustments from the second quarter on to contain Keegan Murray a little bit and slow him down. That doesn't excuse the fact that you couldn't even get Keegan Murray a bad shot. Like, he took no shots for the remainder of the game. That's not the Golden State Warriors. That's a failure on the Sacramento Kings. So look, maybe a wide open corner three for Davion Mitchell isn't necessarily what you drew up for yourself during the regular season with all your DHOs to Keegan and DHOs to Kevin and sprays from the paint. But a wide open corner three is still a great shot that you have to knock down if that's what a Warriors defense is going to give you. So to answer your question, Kenny, yeah, the Warriors have definitely changed how the Sacramento Kings are shooting three-pointers, but they're still wide open three-point looks. At some point, you have to knock those down if you want to be successful, especially when offense is your strength.
What was practice like today?
It was jovial. It was relaxed. It was calm. When we got in there, both the starters and the bench were competing in like a shooting competition where it starts with free throws, then three-pointers, and then half-court shots. Alex Len hit the half-court shot to win it for the bench squad, which was pretty cool. Everybody was relaxed. Everybody was laughing. We talked to Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, and Mike Brown, and I think Malik had some really fun lines. He was asked, like, what does desperation look like with this team? And he said, you're going to find out in game 6. You're going to find out tomorrow. Mike Brown dropped a line that the Kings love playing with quick turnarounds. Like, they like it. That's what they want. And Harrison Barnes talked about, look, this team is young, so we're just ready to play. Like, that's what it is. The Kings look ready. They don't look scared. They don't look beaten down, or they certainly don't look like they've given up at all. And the one thing I will say, the only thing that I know for a fact is not going to happen in game 6 is that the Sacramento Kings are going to get blown out. The Kings aren't going to fold. They're not. They're going to go in. They're going to battle. If the Golden State Warriors close them out, the Golden State Warriors are going to close them out. But the Kings are going to fight and scratch and claw until the very, very end. That might not be good enough, but that's okay because that's who this team is, and that's the energy that they were giving off in practice today.
I'm really anxious to see how they come out. I'm really anxious to see what this team is able to do. And you talk about them going to practice. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum, but that's kind of what's got to go down. They've got to go out there, still be the same team that they've been all year long, because that's been good enough to keep them from losing 4 in a row since the beginning of the season. And it's a different situation. It's the Golden State Warriors. It's the defending champions. We understand that. But be who you are. That's why I don't really have a problem with the three attempts, and that's who you are. That's what got you here. And there are certain adjustments that you can make from game to game and situation to situation. But if you hit threes during the season, and that's what got you the 3 seed and got you 48 wins, man, don't hesitate to take them shots. Let it fly, as Coach Brown keeps saying. And I hope they're ready to let it fly tomorrow night in San Francisco.
I see Jimmy Ty in the chat. He's saying Warriors smell blood. Like, who gives a damn? Who cares? The Sacramento Kings aren't afraid of the Warriors smelling blood. The Warriors absolutely are in the driver's seat and are in a position to put this away. The Sacramento Kings can't care about that. And Sacramento Kings fans shouldn't really care about that. Like, who cares if the Warriors smell blood or not? Who cares what the Warriors are going to throw at you? Play your game. Like, hit shots. play defense, play to the level that you're capable of playing, that you've played really only one in a fraction games so far in this series. Like, and I'm looking directly at the Kings playoff veterans at this point and going like, who the hell is going to show up? Because the three best players in this series, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and Davion Mitchell, all three guys who have never played in the playoffs before. Harrison Barnes has disappeared at times. Kevin Huerter has been a complete non-factor. Domantas Sabonis has really struggled. Those are your three playoff veterans, with the exception of Matthew Dellavedova, who's doing everything he can from the bench in the locker room to have any kind of positive impact. But it's time for some veteran guys to step up as well and give this team some help. Sacramento won games consistently during the regular season by having 5, 6, sometimes 7 guys finishing double figures, spread out, balanced score sheets. While it's great that De'Aaron Fox has proven that he is the star that can carry the Sacramento Kings on this playoff stage, like I knew he was and I knew he would finally show, at some point you got to give the man some help. And I'm not just talking about one quarter of good Keegan Murray and then one quarter in the third of Harrison Barnes getting to the foul line because he's posting up, and then one quarter of Malik Monk trying to do his best in the fourth quarter. I'm talking 4 quarters of guys that are impactful, that are involved. And that falls on everybody. That falls on the coaching staff. That falls on even De'Aaron Fox to some extent. Like, I go back to the Keegan Murray thing. There's no excuse for not giving Keegan Murray or getting Keegan Murray a single shot for the remainder of the game. When he starts the game that hot and you're struggling as much as you are offensively in this series, you have a guy that's actually capable of hitting shots and you don't even get him a touch. I also blame Keegan Murray a little bit too. I asked Mike Brown if Keegan needs to kind of find his voice a little bit more and demand the ball. And Mike said he's working on that and he's getting there, but he also kind of gets lost in the shuffle with the amount of scores on this Kings offense. But I don't know if it's Keegan needing to demand the ball. I don't know if it's Fox in a timeout saying, hey, like, let's get Keegan a ball. Let's draw him up a play. I don't know if it's throwing 2 screens to get Keegan Murray open if one isn't working, but do something to take advantage of guys that are actually showing up and ready to play and are hitting shots. And the rest of those guys, like, I can absolutely live with the shots that Kevin Huerter's taking, but Kevin's got to start hitting them. Like, this is a make or break league at this point, and you're going to either be watching the rest of the series on this couch wondering what could have happened, or you can keep going if you hit your shots and control your own destiny. So I don't care if the Warriors smell blood. It's about what the Kings can do.
In a win or go home situation, potentially your final game of the season, with the way Kevin Huerter has been now for 5 games, do you entertain a change at all in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think that's a little too much of a knee-jerk reaction. I think Mike Brown alluded to that in a question he was asked at practice today. He said you don't want to react too much to where it looks like, or overreact too much to where it looks like you're searching for things. Mike is also naturally stubborn, and he's admitted so. Like, he's hard-headed and stubborn when it comes to changing his rotations and changing his lineups based off of what other teams are doing. Like, the easy change would be to put Davion Mitchell in the starting lineup and take Kevin Huerter out. But do you want to shatter any last drop of confidence that Kevin Huerter has? And how much of a difference does that really make? Because the reality is you're still playing a majority lineup of minutes of Fox, Monk, and Mitchell together. Doesn't matter if the 3 of them are starting or not. The 3 of them have been out on the floor together a lot. So I think at this point, I mean, you've had that starting lineup so consistently for basically this entire season and the entire playoffs. Ride with it, stick with it. You know that that lineup has consistently at least gotten you into games that, quite frankly, at times, like, the Kings had no business being in. I didn't think the Kings had any business being as close as they were in the game last night in the fourth quarter, considering how poorly they were playing and how well the Warriors were getting contributions out of different guys. But here they were, still in the game. So stick with what you got, trust in what you got, live with going down on your own ship, playing the brand of basketball that you want to play. If you lose to the champs, you lose to the champs.
Yeah. I understand the question that, Damian posed, and he didn't just pull it. A lot of people are asking the question. But no, you stick with Kevin Huerter. It's almost one of those things though with like with Keegan. Like we were talking about Keegan before, you got to show me something. But I will also say this. Keegan felt a little replaceable with this group, this unit. So if Keegan wasn't showing you something, like, man, I'm going to Trey Lyles. I can't waste no time. They felt a little replaceable. Kevin doesn't feel as replaceable to me. Do you guys understand? Do you guys feel the same way? Like I think you need Kevin Huerter to win, and he needs to be making his shots.
But he's not.
Right,
Like,
but you need him. So, like, when I say you got to show me something else, you're gone. I don't know if it's that simple with Kevin Huerter. Like, he missed his first 3 shots. Bro, we need you to hit your next 3. Like, we need you to hit. Keegan missed his first 3 shots. All right, come sit next to me, rookie. Trey Lyles, get in there. Does that make any sense, Matt? Like, I think you need Kevin more than you need Keegan in that situation.
I'm feeling you completely. I agree 100%. Like, Kevin Huerter is so important for floor spacing alone. Like, the reality is the Warriors have minimum 1, sometimes 2 guys just standing in the paint waiting for someone to attack. And as soon as De'Aaron or DeMontis or anybody tries to attack the paint, they're swiping at the ball, grabbing at the ball, trying to force jump balls, force turnovers. And that's what led to, I think, 9 combined turnovers for Fox and Sabonis last night. Like, they are just waiting and lurking in the paint and saying, come on in. And then they're jumping on the Kings as soon as they come in. So how do you counteract that? You need your floor spacers to space the floor and make them pay for that. Like, the Kings, again, are generating wide open 3-pointers. They're just not hitting them. Kevin Huerter has been essential to the success of the Sacramento Kings, especially with the spray game that Mike Brown likes to talk about a lot. Mike pointed something out at practice today that I thought was pretty crazy. The Kings had that amazing first quarter. They shot 8 of 11 for 8 of 12 from 3-point range in the first quarter, right? Mm-hmm. Mike pointed out that they went 3 of 6 in spray 3-pointers, which, again, to summarize spraying, it's when De'Aaron Fox attacks the basket, touches the paint, draws a crowd, and sprays it out or kicks it out to an open 3-pointer. That's what the Kings were doing, and they were 3 of 6 in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. For the remainder of the game, and I might be getting this wrong, and I recorded the quote. I should post this to social media. But for the remainder of the game, I think they had 5 total spray attempts, 3 attempts, or maybe it was 3. Like, it was just a ridiculous number. Like, what the Kings are supposed to be doing, how they run their offense, how they were getting their looks in the first quarter, they completely went away from that. And a lot of it has to do with the confidence of guys on the perimeter. And a lot of it also has to do with how effective the Warriors have been of not allowing when players come into the paint, they're getting swarmed. And not only are the Warriors swarming the ball, they're also cutting off passing lanes and not allowing the Kings to kick the ball out. So in the case of Kevin Huerter, like, he's a poacher around the perimeter. He can move and hit shots wherever he wants on the perimeter, and he's done that all season long. He's a merchant out there. So you need a guy that at any point in time can bail Fox or Sabonis or Monk out, who's attacking the basket, with a wide open 3 to force the Warriors to hesitate a little bit on, do we go all in on the guy attacking the basket, or do we space the floor or spread out and make sure Kevin Huerter can't beat us on the perimeter? Kevin's not making them pay. Nobody on the Kings really consistently is making the Warriors pay, so the Warriors know we can just sit in the paint, camp all we want until the Kings actually decide to hit a 3, and Sacramento has really not done that except for Game 4.
Kenny and I have discussed this at length about why those shots aren't falling. Like, it's clear that's a big issue for Sacramento, and a big issue why they're in the position that they're in. And you mentioned the 8 of 12 to start, and I think it was 2 of 21 or something like that in the final 3 quarters. But what we can't nail down is why. Like, why aren't they? And it's not a game. Well, you just got to hit your open shots. All right, okay. Game 2 or next game. Well, you just got to hit your open shots. Okay, well, now we're like 4 out of the 5 games, they're not hitting their open shots. So is it as simple as, you just got to make your shots? Or are perhaps the Warriors doing something that, despite the fact these are classified as wide open looks or open looks, that's flustering Sacramento a little bit?
I don't think there's an explanation that's excusable. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, no matter what you come up with, it's not okay.
It's a different way of saying what Kenny says. Just make your damn shots.
No, really, though. Like, this is your strength. This is what you established yourself as. And I know the playoffs are different. Believe me, we heard it a million times from our Bay Area friends over there. Oh, playoffs are different. Playoffs are different. Well, the Kings have
reporter Matt George admits he's wrong about Kevon Looney.
Make it an article. Let's write 1,000 words about it. Apparently, I matter that much. So thanks, 95.7. Really appreciate coming on your show after the Warriors win games. Don't bother inviting me after the Kings win. Anyway,
I haven't invited any of us after the Kings win.
Did I talk to them after they were up 2-0?
They said they did. They said they did. They said they had Kenny on, so they didn't need me.
I think it was 2-1. I think I was on last Friday.
All right.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, it wasn't after a Kings win, by the way.
Either way, like, this is who you're supposed to be. This is who your strength's supposed to be. And the Kings have established themselves as a better defensive team and a team that is actually capable of playing defense at the level of physicality of the playoffs. The Kings have taken advantage of the physicality leash that you're given in the playoffs, just like the Warriors have at times. And I'm happy to see the Kings rise to that occasion. But what you're supposed to lean on, like the reality, look, Steph Curry is a great 3-point shooter. The Golden State Warriors, when they need big buckets from the perimeter, Klay Thompson gets it for him, or Steph gets it for him, or even Andrew Wiggins gets it for him. Jordan Poole gets it for him. Like, the Warriors know when to hit big shots when it matters. The Kings did that, especially in game one, right? When they finished the game shooting 8 of 10 from 3-point range. They closed out that game. Game one, they really looked like, okay, this is the Sacramento Kings team from the regular season. With the exception of that, like, the Kings have not stepped up to the plate when it comes to what their strength is supposed to be. So, I mean, it's simple and it's easy for us to say from a position of not being on the floor under the lights on that stage. But yeah, hit your damn shots. Like, that's what you're here for. That's what you got to do. That's the difference between being potential. The Kings hit their shots. This series could have been over by now. That's the difference. Instead, here you are with your backs against the wall, potentially booking flights to Cancun.
And one of the things that I came up with, other than because when Damian first asked me, I was like, I don't know. I don't know why they're not hitting shots.
All-time radio moment right there. Oh,
they don't either, though. They
right.
don't. Like, we asked them in San Francisco, they're like, I don't know. They're going to drop at some point. Like, law of averages.
Well, and my thought was, if we knew the answer to that, then people would know the answer and fix it. And we've never had a situation where people were missing shots, right? But I also came around to say, maybe it is the pressure. Maybe it is the pressure of the moment. Maybe, and this is where, I can understand. Some people don't feel it, but some people do. Like, you start off 0 for 2 in December. That's different than start 0 for 2 in game 5. You know what I mean? So maybe it is the pressure to get into some of these guys of the moment and putting too much on their mind. Like Kevin Huerter, for instance, just from some of the things that I've heard, he's all messed up. I feel like I'm hearing he's too angry about everything right now. Like, you gotta let some of that energy go, bro. Like, I understand you want to play better. I understand that maybe you're frustrated that people are asking you, why aren't you making shots? But I don't think that's helping you. Like, I don't think that. I think he needs to, like, fully relax. Maybe even get away from the game for 5 hours. Go play PS5 or something. Like something like that. Like, that's not helping you. And that's a form of pressure, right? Like, there's more people. Nobody's going to ask you about your shot if you have a bad shooting slump for 3 days in the regular season. But now it's the playoffs and they're asking you and you're reacting maybe, in a defensive, angry way. And it's affecting your game, in my opinion. So maybe that's the reason why some of these shots aren't falling. The pressure of the moment.
Well, that's where I think this game 6, we might see the most free basketball that the Sacramento Kings have played. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best basketball, but I can't pretend to put myself in the shoes of Kevin Huerter, who, if you look at his playoff stats, they're not great. Like, he's developing a reputation of, on this big stage, he's not that guy. And of course, he holds himself accountable. He holds himself to a high standard. And look, if I'm feeling the heat of Twitter mentions for a Kevon Looney take, how much heat is he feeling from Twitter mentions from everybody saying he can't hit a shot and he's disappearing on the playoff stage? So I'm sure that affects Kevin, just like that affects everybody. I'm sure Domantas Sabonis has elements of that too, and whatever. But that's where I'm saying, like, game 6, who cares? Like, nobody, there are no expectations in game 6. You have nothing to lose. Like, go out there and let it fly. And if you have a bad game, like, that's the one thing I really appreciate about Harrison Barnes, is Harrison has been the butt of jokes from Golden State Warrior fans this entire series. Anytime Harrison Barnes misses shots, playoff Harrison, here he is again. He misses that game 4 shot. It's like, poetic justice here in Golden State. He doesn't seem to let that phase him, even if he's disappeared at times during the series and you need more out of him. And I think Monty McNair has a lot of questions that he needs to ask going into this offseason, especially when he wants to improve this team and they're going to have the expectations of making a playoff run next year. But like Harrison doesn't seem to allow that to affect him and seems to play basketball the same way. So go out and play as free as you possibly can, Kings, knowing that like it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't at this point. The expectation is that you're going to lose. The expectation is that your season is coming to an end. Nobody has expectations of you in this game, just like nobody's had expectations of you basically this entire season. You've gone out and proved them wrong just by playing your own brand of basketball a year. So go out and do the same thing. I think Kevin Huerter can play with that freedom too, going, I know what I'm doing. I know what I bring to the table. I can hit shots. I'm going to go out and do it.
What do you think of Domas this series? It kind of feels like a loaded question, but
yeah.
It's obviously a topic of discussion. I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, Domas has not had my back in the Twitter wars, that's for sure. No, he's been a
Poor Matt George going to war every day.
Bro, it's my mentions are. I'm a pinata for Warriors Twitter. I'm public enemy number 1. I didn't think I mattered that much.
They was getting at me last night. Boy, they had a good old time in my mentions last night.
I got called a rat. I was like, that's a first. I've never been called a rat before, but okay, I'll that's
wow.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, no, like Sabonis has been a disappointment. Like there's kind of no really other way to sum it up. And he's the nicest guy in the world. He makes absolutely no excuses for himself. He's never going to talk about getting stomped on. He's never going to talk about getting beat up. He's not going to talk about the referees. Like Sabonis has just not lived up to the stage and the significance in the same way that De'Aaron Fox has. Like Fox has taken this opportunity and made the absolute most of it. Now, granted, maybe doing that as a guard against the Golden State Warriors versus doing that as a big against the Golden State Warriors, those are two different things. And I do give the Warriors a ton of credit for how they have completely taken Domantas Sabonis out of his offensive flow. But Sabonis seems to be completely in his own head. His confidence seems to be shattered. And the reality is, and this is what offended Warrior fans in the first place, but it's true. I know Kevon Looney came into this playoff series leading the league in offensive rebounds this season, but damn it, Domantas Sabonis led the league in rebounds, period. Domantas Sabonis, you were given before the game started a award, a trophy for being the league leader in rebounding, and then you went and got out-rebounded 22-10 by the starting center for the other team. Like, Kevon Looney plays his role very, very well. That's the epitome of the Golden State Warriors. That's Steve Kerr's system. They know their jobs, and they go out and they do it well. Kevon Looney is not a more skilled big man than Domantas Sabonis is. Nobody would say that, but Kevon Looney has been playing his role way better than Domantas Sabonis has been playing his. Granted, Sabonis is asked to do a lot more than Kevon Looney is, but Sabonis and Looney are not on the same level. They're not. We were talking about Sabonis as the best player on this Kings team during the regular season. We're talking about Sabonis as an all-NBA third-team center. We're talking about Sabonis as someone who is in the MVP voting conversation. He never really had a chance to win it, but there were guys putting him in the conversation. You cannot be getting beat on the playoff stage by a role-playing center. You can't, and he has. So, to me, Sabonis has not lived up to the moment. Sabonis has been a disappointment. In no way has he done anything that negates the positives that he's brought to the Sacramento Kings and jeopardized his status as a future core member of hopefully a Kings championship team. Like, this is one playoff series. And I'd like to believe that if the Kings found a way to move on and play the Lakers or the Grizzlies, he would have a significantly better series. And a lot of this could be chalked up to mashups. But on this stage, you need your biggest names to step up. The Warriors have gotten their biggest names to step up. Sabonis has not, and that's the harsh reality of the situation.
I remember one time, it was not too long ago. It was when I was older. I was playing one-on-one with this guy. He's like 10 years younger than me, and he beat me in one-on-one, and I was so mad. You know what I'm saying? Because I was out of shape. He just beat me when we were playing one-on-one, and I was just like, man, that can't happen. He's like, man, I was like, man, that's whack. That's trash, man. I'm so mad at myself. I need to get in better shape. I'm so mad at myself. And the guy goes, kind of talking like I'm a scrub right now, like he had no business losing to me, right? And that's kind of how I feel about Domas and Looney, right? Where, like, I know it sounds like nobody's trying to say Looney's a scrub or anything like that, but it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Domas has to play better. He has to win that battle. Sure, Looney, because that's all he's really asked to do. Maybe he wins a defensive battle, right? But it can't be 22-10. It could be 16-14. You know what I mean? Like it could be that. It can't be 22-10.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're getting at. Nobody necessarily is trying to take away from Loon and what he's able to do, but make no bones about it. He's a role player. Domas Sabonis is an all-star center in this league, and he should be playing better than what he's playing right now, and he shouldn't be getting outplayed by Kevon Looney.
I think Kevon Looney had a hell of a performance last night. I think he's had a really good series. And I don't know if it's Kevon Looney or the combination of Kevon Looney and Draymond Green that have frustrated Domantas Sabonis so much, but you look at the 21, 10, and 5. It's the other 5 that really stands out, Matt, and it's tough to ask a player to be perfect, but that's kind of the case with Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. You have to play near perfect, and 5 turnovers is tough, especially, Matt, we've spent the entire season saying, this guy is the hub of the offense. To have 5 turnovers from the hub of your offense in a game as critical as last night's was, that's tough. And some of them felt like momentum shifting turnovers.
No, Sabonis, you call him the hub. I call him the foundation of what the Sacramento Kings do. He's their foundation. And the Warriors have completely knocked the foundation out from underneath the Sacramento Kings. And still somehow they've salvaged 2 games. Like, granted, game 2 was Domantas Sabonis' best game. And the Kings won, not comfortably necessarily, but it was their most commanding performance. So, like, the Warriors have taken out the foundation of the Sacramento Kings offense. And, yeah, the turnovers are problematic. I've seen and heard people talking about Sabonis' stat line last night and going, it's not a bad stat line. It's not. But if you watch Sabonis play, especially with the context of what we've seen Sabonis do over the course of the regular season and how essential he is to just the general flow of the Sacramento Kings offense. Like, you asked for an explanation for why the Sacramento Kings aren't hitting shots. I'm not... Let this be very, very clear. I'm not blaming Domantas Sabonis for why the Sacramento Kings aren't hitting shots. But if the Kings aren't hitting shots because their rhythm is off, their rhythm being off starts with Domantas Sabonis because he is the foundation of what they do, and the Golden State Warriors have taken that away. So I don't put all the blame on Sabonis. I give the Warriors credit. Also, the Sacramento Kings shooters need to do a better job of taking some of the load off Sabonis and hitting their damn shots so that Kevon Looney can't just stand in the paint, or Draymond Green can't just stand in the paint and look at Domantas Sabonis and say, go ahead and take that mid-range jumper. We don't care. Like, that's what they're doing to him the entire series, and that has an effect on a guy. So, like, the Kings, I think, sometimes have left Sabonis out to dry. But at the same time, if you need a big bucket and a play is busted, Sabonis, you're a good enough player to be able to go and get that bucket for the Kings, and certainly not go through the chest of Kevon Looney and turn the ball over with an offensive foul, and also just be stronger with the foul or with the ball, period. The Warriors are swiping at it. The Warriors are grabbing at it. Be strong with it, rip through and go up and try and get to the line. Granted, the officials, since the Warriors and Warriors media and fandom completely cried about officiating after game 2, Domantas Sabonis has not gotten to the free throw line, period, or barely has. So maybe that's kind of hindered him a little bit too. But the reality is, there's no excuses to be made, and Sabonis isn't making any excuses. Like, he has not been good enough.
I think that's why you two are getting jumped in your mentions,
Well,
by the way.
I was about to say, Matt just keeps on taking these little shots. That's why he keeps...
Yo, they said Domantas Sabonis was using the ball as a weapon. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it was a legitimate NBA headline because the Bay Area was melting down because they couldn't handle their Dubs being down 0-2. And now all of a sudden there's this swagger, and we need to be humbled because the Warriors have won 3 games like they were supposed to. Like, here's the reality of the situation. The Kings have not been good enough. Sabonis hasn't been good enough. And here in Sacramento, we're recognizing our problems. So I'll take those shots all day because I have no problem pointing out the absolute lunacy that came out of that part of California when the Sacramento Kings were up 2-0 in this series. Granted, the Warriors have completely turned it around. The Warriors have done their jobs, and I give them all the credit in the world. But the fan base has been silly this entire time, and it's been a lot of fun to interact with.
The one thing that I would say, if I was Mike Brown, if I was Malik Monk or somebody like that, Game 3 is game 3. You guys got outworked. Nobody played well, but they outworked you. Lots of games, man. You're not getting your butt beat up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know. No, that was you. That was him. That was him. That was him.
Oh, man, I didn't even do nothing. I didn't do nothing. I'm just minding my business, talking to my friend Matt George. You're over here getting wild.
You ain't getting slapped up. Okay.
Jeez.
You're not getting slapped up if you're the Kings. You're in these games in game 4 and game 5. You're not you can put together a better performance than you have in these 2 games and get a win in San Francisco. That's the way you got to look at it, man. And it's
but how? That's my question. Like how? How do you do it?
You get a better game by Sabonis.
No, I get that. How?
How do you get a better
game?
Stop turning the ball over.
Okay, I'll take that.
Stop turning the ball over.
I'll take that.
Like,
I'll take that.
If he gives you 21 and 10 again
and
2 turnovers, and maybe take 2 of those turnovers and add them to the assists, like I think that's one step.
21, 10, and 7.
Yeah, that's one step in the direction. Then you probably need, let's just say, Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter's got to hit, instead of, I think he had 2 threes last night.
Did he?
Yeah, he actually had like 11 points or something.
Well, I remember the he had a couple mid-range shots. He hit one.
He had one,
and I don't remember it.
Yeah, he had 1 of 4.
Oh, I do remember it. The crowd went crazy. They were like, "This is it! It's happening!"
Yeah,
and then it in fact wasn't.
So you get that. I mean, look at what all these guys. 1 more shot. Huerter make 1 more shot. Davion make 1 more shot. Malik hit 1 more 3.
Let me ask Matt real quick. Did Huerter get hurt last night?
Someone mentioned him going back into the tunnel. I didn't see it, but he got the quick hook and he played like 5 minutes in the second half. So I don't know if it was injury related or how he was playing.
He might have been frustrated because I saw that and I'm kind of looked over. I saw him come back and I don't think he played again.
Yeah.
But there was never
he didn't play.
There was never a report that anything happened. So I assume he was out there today and a part of practice.
Let me go back to one question you just asked Kenny. How do the Sacramento Kings win? I'll tell you how the Kings win. Kenny was right. Number 1 is you take care of turnovers, especially timely turnovers. If the game is close in the 4th quarter, don't turn the ball over. And the Sacramento Kings have done that a lot in the past couple of games where in crucial possessions, they've turned the ball over. And it's been different guys that have done it. Clean up those turnovers and clean up points off of turnovers. When the Kings won games 1 and games 2, I think the Warriors had a combined 14 points off of turnovers in those 2 games. I think it was 5 in game 1 or 9 in game 2 or vice versa. Like the Warriors were not scoring off of Sacramento Kings turnovers. That's number 1. Number 2 is box out and limit second chance opportunities. Number 3 is limit points in the paint. The Kings gave up 60 points in the paint to the Golden State Warriors last night. In games 1 and games 2, the Warriors were in the 40s in points in the paint. The Kings were absolutely abused by backdoor cuts. So win these battles in the box score and then just shoot a little bit better from 3-point range and you're right there and just don't make costly mistakes at the end of the game. That is what's been, with the exception of game 3, but although game 3, they got their ass kicked in almost every important statistical category. With the exception of that, every single game has been decided by a handful of possessions where the Kings have made mistakes against a veteran team that they cannot make. But they've been in every single game, despite the fact that they haven't shot the ball well, with the exception of game 4. But consistently, they've been winning these little battles in the trenches. They've been limiting second chance opportunities. They've been trying to keep guys like Kevon Looney off the offensive glass. Like there's no excuse for Gary Payton II having the monster game on the offensive glass that he had last night, getting the Golden State Warriors so many second chance opportunities. Clean that up, and that's been a focus of the Kings all season. Clean that up, and then just live up to your potential or reputation as an offensive team. You win game 6. Doesn't matter what gym you're playing in. You clean that up. Don't make those mistakes at the end of the game. That's how you win. Easier said than done, of course, but that's how you win.
Take care of the basketball, rebound the basketball before anybody makes a shot. If you do those 2 things, that might even be enough to get a win. These are 1-2 possession games that we're talking about that they've lost the last 2 games. So it doesn't take a whole lot. It takes a couple plays here and there.
Do you think the turnaround, Matt, could help the Kings a little bit?
I think so.
I feel like the Kings might be tired too, by the way.
Oh yeah. I mean, with the pace of that first quarter, I was tired. Damn, my wrist was hurting trying to follow the action with my freaking camera the entire time, because as soon as or De'Aaron Fox would hit a three, all of a sudden here's Andrew Wiggins on the other end of the floor. So like that pace was exhausting. It was also a lot of fun. So yeah, I think the Kings are gassed too, but the Kings are younger and this is their game. And the Sacramento Kings, the Warriors have, for the first time maybe ever, the Golden State Warriors have intentionally tried to slow the game down as much as possible. Like that's what they're doing. And when the Kings have tried to get fast, sometimes they've been so fast they're out of control, like what happened at the end of Game 4. But for the most part, when they're playing with that pace, it's working in their favor. And we've seen times where Steph looked exhausted, Clay looked exhausted, Dre's looked exhausted. Like, push the tempo and keep running. So I think these quick turnarounds are in the favor of the Sacramento Kings over the Golden State Warriors. You have the young legs, use them.
Great stuff from our buddy Matt George here. Make sure you're subscribing to the Locked On Kings podcast. Check them out on ABC.